People ask me if I'm a gamer, and the answer is no. I'm a Virgo. But I really like the occasional Japanese romance game, sort of electronic choose-your-own-adventure novels. As cool as that makes me, a couple of the games I like are problematic. And I admit it. I am being so brave right now, you guys. Now, I already covered in my Pathologic 2 video that dissecting myself in front of an audience over what I like or what I don't like is a little bit self-destructive. Not only that, but I've already pulled that trick, so for the purposes of this video, I, your author, am dead. I refuse analysis. What I'm going to do is compare 3 games. First, the venerated Hatoful Boyfriend, the 2011 indie breakout game, and 2 other similar games, Sweet Fuse at Your Side and Amnesia Memories. But be warned, under their sweet facades, these are relatively dark games. All 3 have murders with you as the victim. All 3 have intimate partner violence, with one of them having one of the most extreme depictions of that I have ever seen in a game. And, in my opinion, one of the games pulls it off. One of the games gets shaky but sticks the landing. And one of them falls apart. Consider that your content and your spoiler warning. Let's start with what the games have in common. First, a cool gimmick. In Amnesia Memories, you're an amnesiac who collides with an interdimensional being and has to choose which parallel universe you get plopped back into, with each one corresponding to a boy you can date. In Sweet Fuse at Your Side, you're the niece of Keiji Inafune, who did work on the game. You're there to support the opening of a theme park he designed when you're taken hostage by a pig-suited terrorist and forced to compete Saw-like traps with cute boys. In Hatoful Boyfriend, you're a schoolgirl who dates birds. All of the games have a mind screw of a plot. Each boy you date reveals a piece of the mystery of what's going on. Sweet Fuse, of course, asks, why is a Jigsaw knockoff mad at my 5 boyfriends? The other 2 games are even weirder, in part because it's a twist that the stories are mysteries. In Amnesia Memories, the mystery is, what was the real cause of, and what are the implications of, you being unstuck between parallel dimensions? In Hatoful Boyfriend, the mystery is, why are you a girl dating pigeons, and where are all the other people? Are you the only human being left alive? So, if I put these 3 games in a lineup and said one was a romantic thriller, but the other 2 were horror games, would you be able to pick out which was which? Lock in your answers, all will be revealed soon. So, back to what they have in common. In Otome, Japanese romance games, the boys you can date fit into set archetypes. You've got boyish, himbo, the guy with anxiety, the guy who's old enough to have knee problems, the guy who thinks you're an idiot and treats you like livestock until you can prove you're not. That guy isn't great. Maybe don't date him in real life. There are more than that, but I've got 2 I'd like to highlight for this video. Murderous and Possessive. And for the purposes of ratcheting up the tension, I'll choose the less problematic one first. So, Murderous it is. In Amnesia Memories, there's a guy who will show up in each of the routes and try and kill you. And in a few of them, he succeeds. If you accidentally end up alone with him or take a wrong turn near a well, you end up at the bottom of it. I got to the point where I saw his portrait and I'd start panicking. You can date that guy. So if you guessed Amnesia Memories was a horror game, congratulations! So which other? Saw knockoff or pigeon game? Well, in a lot of ways, Hatoful Boyfriend is a parody of games like Sweet Fuse and Amnesia Memories. In one of the routes, you can poke around the office of this creepy school doctor, Shu, finding poisons, getting hints he may be killing and eating other students. And if you pursue him, he says, I'm planning to kill you, and you know that about me, so what are you doing here? These games usually have a good and a bad ending for each boy. You get the happy ending with the correct navigation of a dialogue tree and building up a stat or 2. In his bad ending, Dr. Shu beheads you. In the good ending, he beheads you, keeps your head alive, and the only thing it can do is confirm that it loves him. That is dark. And in my opinion, it works. It is
unsentimental, pure horror, and A+, actually scary. Sweet Fuse also lets you date knockoff Jigsaw. And if you give the wrong answer at certain points in his route, he shoots you. It's both the shortest route in the game and the least developed. He's a kind of pathetic figure, actually, and that's not a complaint. I think it ends up strengthening the other romances that he's just not appealing. So far, everything I've discussed, not problematic. Wait, let me explain. The word problematic is often criticized as a weasel word, like this vague, unspecific, soft word we use in place of more specific, incisive criticism. But I think that lack of specificity serves a second function. It lets us hedge a little bit, both socially and sometimes just to give us space to think out why there's a problem. It's a word that says something kind of stinks here without requiring us to know immediately what it is. But in the case of Hatoful Boyfriend, a head in the jar is not problematic, it's a problem. That entire storyline is a critique and a parody of how desensitized we are to romanticized depictions of violence. Even though he does basically tell you he's going to kill you, I was shocked he killed me in both the good and bad ending. That doesn't happen in other games. And in my opinion, it's not problematic to portray bad things as bad. That's just good, clean horror. In Amnesia Memories, the guy who is trying to kill you is core to the mystery of the game, and the resolution to that mystery is good and pulpy and fun. Dating him is ultimately not an example I'd like anybody to follow, but there's like this 12 Monkeys / Groundhog Day type loop that I really enjoyed, and so I kind of forgive it. So we have one type of boy left. Possessive. In Sweet Fuse, the Jigsaw-like mastermind has an accomplice. A Zep, if you will. You can romance him, and if you do, he becomes obsessed with keeping you safe. And you know, from his point of view, it makes a lot of sense. He and Pretty Boy Jigsaw are trying to murder some folks, and if you get in the way, you might get hurt. And if you forget that 1, he's one of the culprits, and 2, that he can't just jail his girlfriend, even if it is to keep her safe, you might almost sympathize with this guy. He got recruited because he's psychologically vulnerable, and Pigsaw preyed on that to get him to go along with the murderous plan. The moment he meets the victims, he starts feeding them information to help keep them alive. And he figures out he's the asshole pretty quickly, and he's sorry, and he goes to prison. Now, the game kind of tries to have its cake and eat it too. Isn't this terrible man restraining you romantic? That sort of thing. But you yell at him and he realizes he fucked up and he earns his happy ending. I also enjoy that Urabe, as this possessive, psychologically complicated guy, is very much sprung on you. But not everybody does. A lot of people looking for that happy, sweet romance do not want this. They may even find it triggering to have it sprung on them, and I can't blame them. So I'm a little bit nervous for this next part, and the reason why is because I'm about to tell you about a game that is problematic and then say that I like it anyway.
I'm being so brave.
And sometimes when we talk about a piece of media that fails fundamentally, we treat it like it's a miasma. Let me define that term. Miasma theory was the theory of both illness and evil up through the Middle Ages. Like, say you came across something evil, a person or an object. If you touched it, you would absorb some of that evil, and then you would like start radiating it off of you. You would start breathing it out. And that idea, I think, still has a lot of resonance. You hear all the time phrases like hurt people, or the cycle of abuse. But I think this framing really robs us of both our identities and our power. Like, if you enjoy a piece of fiction that's a little bit icky, it must be because it mutated your soul a little bit, or maybe there's something already wrong with you. Fail to denounce somebody whose soul has been corrupted by the problematic thing? You're problematic too now. And the solution people seem to have come up with is containment and demonization of these problematic things to try and keep the miasma contained. Far be it from me to say words have no effect on the world. Like, if they didn't, why would I even be making videos? Zizek points out that media creates a demand for the thing it portrays, rather than simply being responsive to demand.
Our desires are artificial. We have to be taught to desire.
Cinema is the ultimate pervert art. It doesn't give you what you desire. It tells you how to desire.
And we should absolutely be mindful of that, both with what we create and what we consume. But being mindful is not the same thing as demonizing human beings. I don't think that's ethical, and I'm not really looking forward to volunteering I like something problematic, because I don't want to subject myself to unethical behavior from other people. Anyway, I've delayed enough. One last trigger warning. Have you guessed which game is problematic? In Amnesia Memories, Toma is your childhood friend. And while there are hints something is off, he seems like he'll probably be the least complicated. I mean, he's loved you since he was little, he's protective, he's even-tempered. Well, in his storyline, you're outed as an amnesiac immediately, so you're very vulnerable. And as in all other routes, a murderous green-haired guy is trying to kill you. So he becomes obsessed with keeping you safe, which you interfere with by, behaving like an adult woman with basic autonomy. So he drugs you to keep you in his apartment. And when you figure out he's doing that and object, he locks you in a kennel. In his bad ending, you don't get out. The first time I played this, it was terrifying. This might be the most disturbed I've ever been by a video game, and I like horror games. And narratively, it doesn't work. In his good route, you get out and all is forgiven. The game attaches very little narrative weight to his decisions, and the bad ending has an unmistakably sexualized subtext. So on one level, as a horror fan, I kind of admire that they went there. Like, this is terrifying, and that does take some skill. But I think the other technical flaws don't quite pull it out from being kind of a narrative disaster. So maybe one of the core elements to something being problematic isn't just portraying a problem, but failing to portray a problem as a problem. In Sweet Fuse, a core mechanic is yelling at people, having a spine which people change in response to. In Amnesia, your character does push back gently, but she doesn't ever get mad. Now, I'm not saying they should have halted the story for a very special lesson. Hot Soulful Boyfriend doesn't have a main character that gets mad, it doesn't lecture you, but it communicates through the music and tone that this is horrific. Amnesia lost control of its tone and forgot narrative consequences to the point where I lost immersion. And maybe that's a moral problem, but it's definitely a craft problem. What I hope we can do is we can strike a balance where we don't have to say that fiction has no impact on the world, but on the other hand, we don't end up making ourselves into this raw, exposed nerve that has to absorb all the traumas that come our way. There will, of course, be fiction that is so extreme that it has no redeeming qualities and we can't endorse it for any reason. But most fiction and most people are mixed bags, with some things about them that are good and some things about them that are not great. One of the ways fiction is wonderful is it lets us practice emotional boundaries, boundaries that are protective of ourselves, which let us reject the bad while accepting the good. And the ability to do that means that we love a wider variety of art, which allows us to love a wider variety of people too. And I think that's a worthwhile pursuit. Quick update before I go. I have been transitioning toward becoming a full-time writer, and this YouTube project is part of that, so thank you for watching. If you want to help me out, all you have to do is hit the like button. It does a huge amount for me. If you want to do more than that, you can check out my Patreon page. That's linked below in the description. And thanks so much to my current Patreon subscribers. You help keep the lights on, literally. Thank you for watching, and good night.